Hare Krishna. Greetings from Govardhan. I'm like Superman, but there must have been some kryptonite. You know that story? You don't. I have an educated, cultured Russian, but they don't know Superman and kryptonite. Superman was like a superhero.
Well, I know this Superman is.
Kryptonite was the only thing that could weaken him. So somehow, it's not serious because I don't like that, but had some, and it's a combination of the jet lag also. The jet lag, which combination of a flu and the jet lag, and literally woke up. Honestly, what happened to the thing I was blowing my nose with? Give me that. Literally, I crashed out. Usually I don't get jet lag, but I crashed out and kind of woke up, and it's a class, which reminds me of a story. You'll see I'm speaking a little slower than usually. Prabhupada was outside his house in Vrindavan. We were waiting for Prabhupada. And there were only, I told this story before, 3 or 4 people when Prabhupada came out. Prabhupada said, "Where is everyone?" And the temple president said something. And Prabhupada said, "Wake them up." And then Prabhupada walked to, the Samadhi wasn't there, but there was construction huts, and he went right to the devotee who was in charge of construction. So imagine someone waking you up and saying, "Prabhupada's coming." I don't remember it, but I just think, Prabhupada had so much authority, just a look. And then Prabhupada continued to walk out the front gate. And then he started walking towards the Goshala or the Taparia house. Where the Grihastas were living. And imagine, you're with your family, and Ganana, who was the temple president, I think wrote ahead on the motorcycle and said, "Prabhupada's coming." So when he came in, you could see he's sweeping. So you already know my technique that when I'm not prepared, I go with my weakness. This is the 3rd week in a row, but this one is really legitimate. But I was trying to find the place, and here we go. I think it's chapter 3, text 35, volume 1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Śrī Parīkṣit uvāca, tato maheśvaro, mātas, trapāvanamitānanaḥ, nāradaṁ, bhagavad-bhaktam, avadad vaiṣṇavāgraṇīḥ. Vaiṣṇavāgraṇīḥ. Agrani means the best. Vaiṣṇavāgraṇīḥ, the best. Avadad, spoke. And who is that? Lord Śiva. He spoke. And trapāvanamitānanaḥ, with his head bowed down. His head was bowed down. Trapa, with embarrassment. So Parīkṣit said, "O mother," then Lord Śiva, the best of the Vaiṣṇavas, his head bowed down with embarrassment, said to the great devotee Nārada, Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Taksurinmalatam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vanshakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaiṣṇavebhyo Namo Namah. So I mentioned before that in Shastra, there's generally two stories that go on that are logically contiguous. One is the action, the characters, the theme, the narrative. And then in Shastra, I guess in any great book, a really great book, I don't know, I'm just so disappointed with a lot of writing today. I used to read every year best essays, honing my own writing by, the editor was Robert Antoine, and they'd pick a guest editor. And then people would send essays in from, all the best published essays, hundreds and hundreds. And then they would pick the guest writer, and he would have to pick out like the 15 best. And Robert Antoine, every issue for like at least 30, 40 years, would write the preface about the essay. Very interesting. Just some aspect of the essay. And so would the and then the writer would write also of something about the essay, the guy who chose it, and then mention the ones he took. It's like every year, my Vyasa Puja, there's a Vyasa Puja offering. So someone, writes according to their realization. What is the meaning of this? So we start at the very, very beginning, and I honed in on 3 words in the very first verse that indicated the theme. And the theme is that one idea that connects everything else in a particular work, even if it's apparently disconnected. I think that's the strength of by Prabhupada's grace, my Monday morning greetings. I'm really focused on the theme, and it takes a lot, because there's a lot of nice things you want to say.
Yeah.
But you have to, right? Like that, you have to kind of get to the theme. So, and then the interesting thing I mentioned is, you want to know the theme, you have to know the author, what the intent is. That also helps who the author is. And, it's Sanatana Goswami, who was given a mission by Lord Chaitanya to communicate Samarpiyatam Unatoj Valam Rasam Swabhakti Sriyam, this to communicate this love of Lord Chaitanya and the method to get it. Of course, what is Lord Chaitanya? It's God God manifesting his own devotee to taste his own ecstasy and form. And who does? Who's the best at tasting God's ecstasy and form? It's Srimati Radharani. So that's kind of the mission. And the words were Parama Dasha Antim. Parama Dasha, stage, the supreme stage, the end of the supreme stage, which is basically the love of the gopis for Krishna. So first of all, Dasha means stage. So if you want to show it's the top stage, you have to describe the other stages. Otherwise, if you're best, you have to compare what it's best before. At the same time, it's at every stage, there's a theme that connects it, which is the essence. It's just like an unripe mango and a mango, but you're understanding something at every stage of it. So Sanatana Goswami, I have an audience today, so I'm kind of keeping them up. It's also a trick. It makes it easier for me to repeat things I said in a new way. It looked like it's new. But Sanatana Goswami, he's the artist. So he has an inspiration. And he has to communicate that inspiration. And communication, I've explained many times, entails a depth of understanding and realization so you can frame your inspiration in the language of the audience. And it's not just different languages. It's the language of generation. It's the language of, the same thing. Yeah. It's people may speak English, but people understand it in many, many different ways. So it's just such a focus of Sanatana Goswami on this audience, which is us today, and to communicate it. And one thing, the subject has to be there, but it has to be interesting. and Prabhupada kind of mentioned that when he discussed realization in the fourth chapter of the first canto, to present it in novel and interesting ways. Someone has that realization. So novel, he writes a novel or a history or whatever it is, whatever he's channeled. It's an incredible story. And I mentioned before, it's worth repeating something. We see the same, because it's the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta is the essence of the Bhagavatam that Sukadeva, that Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta summed up to his mother at the end of his life. So it's the Bhagavatam. And the Bhagavatam has specifically the same thing, stages of, so you're educated, what is bhakti? You're educated. And at the same time, you're educated and purified. And these are the two most, these seem to be very important elements in understanding. Education and purification. Education gives you the purification, prevents you from understanding and communicating something according to your own desires. I had that with at the beginning, I was in charge of Iyendra's biography. And so I got the first author, and then I suggested the second author first author was very, very brilliant. But he was attached to his Ayendra, where you have to be concerned that Ayendra is understood to the audience. It's very, I think Kalachandji is the second person we got is Kalachandji, who did a brilliant job. And you don't know the subtleties of it because you're dealing with a lot of audiences. And I remember the year that Srila Tamal Krishnaraj passed away. The year that he passed away, I visited him in Oxford. We spent some really good time together. And he was telling me his mission because he was writing, his thesis on the theology of Prabhupada. But he kept on telling me his audience. He knew his audience, right? He had the academic scholars. He had the Prabhupada Nugas. He had the GBC. He just told me he was cognizant of his audience. That's why in spiritual subject matter, Prabhupada said, when he was saying, devotees can do all kinds of services, but translating and commentating on the Bhagavatam wasn't ordinary. It wasn't ordinary service. It's just like to be the ruler of the world. In the Bhagavatam, it mentions Maharaj Parikṣit was the ruler of the world. You have to be a Mahabhagavat. Because you have to satisfy everyone. You have to satisfy everyone, and you have to have such deep, you have to be so thoughtful and realized. When we had this crisis it's very difficult. Prabhupada said that the management of Vrindavan was cursed. Very difficult to manage in Vrindavan because it's a spiritual energy and you got to exert your material, it's very difficult, here to manage. You're telling me about Achintya, how somehow he's so expert to keep the person. He's building this new project and he never stopped. He's doing a lot of things and they're all expertly organized and he's just moving. He never stops moving. So many problems. I guess the key is you have an ability and allow Krishna to empower you. It's like I give an example of carving or a cook. Yeah, we have a cook. Rasi Govind is here. Cook. You have a cook. Cook likes his knives. You got to have those sharp knives, right? Henry is here. I used to visit Henry. I saw Henry's name there. Haribo. And when he was hosting Jamuna while she was writing cookbooks, and I think he may still have it. A board where she drew where all the different items were. She actually drew it in magic marker. So two things are required. You have the expertise is required, but the empowerment of Krishna has to be there also. The empowerment, because a devotee is often asked to do things that are beyond their capability. Like when Prabhupada said, in 2.5 months, I want 17 volumes of the Chaitanya Charitamrita finished. 17 volumes. And they said it's impossible. And Prabhupada said impossible. Impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. So a Mahabhagavat has to be empowered because that to satisfy everyone. So you have the talents, and then you have the allowing and praying that Krishna uses your abilities. then you see how nice things happen, just like the Rath Yatra, I think, not Rath Yatra, the Vyas Puja, most of you would hear. A beautiful Kaveri did those decorations. The talent is there, but also the heart is there. And things come out so wonderful. So in the temple president, we had a problem, when Kadamba Kanana, no, wasn't that before Kadamba Kanana was president? It was one president. And anyway, somehow it seemed that the mafia was taking over the temple. There was problems. So we changed. I was also in the management. We changed the thing, but we gave the person a send-off. We gave the person a send-off. I think you can turn on the light, one of the lights. See, it's not in back of me, but in front of me. Okay, right there, we got it. So we had a send-off, and everybody glorified that person. He did great service, just time for a change. And then that person, who happened to be a great speaker and Krishna-katha, he told this story about this man who offered $1 million if anyone could make this donkey say no. So everyone kept on coming to the donkey and whispering in his ears. And, the donkey, no matter what you said, he would go, and hundreds of people, and they offered $1 million. He's telling the story. So then one guy comes and whispers into the donkey's ear, and the donkey goes, and they ask him, what did you whisper into the ear? Whether you want to be temple president of Vrindavan. Anyway, the kind of theme I'm getting at, just to introduce this, Sanatana Goswami doesn't have an easy job, and he's picked this wonderful story. And one junction of the story is really, we mentioned the three ways where we dissect and we see and we feel. I know the people that are listening to this, I'm really thankful to this audience, but they're steady. It's just great. You can hear, there are many classes, but I know just to hear. Sanatana Goswami is trying to get to your heart. Sanatana Goswami is trying to get your heart. He's empowered. So he wants to teach you what is bhakti and what are the stages and what is the essence. The essence means that quality which cannot be taken away. So you see every person, from the previous person who denies he's the Nārada's search, topmost recipient of Krishna's mercy, then the person points to the next person. He's the topmost recipient. Then Nārada goes there and sees it himself. So you get that description. And then I think the most beautiful charm is you see the quality of the real Vaiṣṇava. And it's mentioned here too. It's almost not like there's one above the other. It's almost an intimacy. Intimacy is not so much hierarchy. The lover is better than the mother. It's just, you can grade date them that way, but you really can't. It's the level of intimacy. So what you see is, and that's what we hear now, is Parīkṣit describing Śiva, the best of devotees. Well, what does he do when he's praised? His head bowed with embarrassment. And I actually now, so you see his humility. I don't know where the inspiration came, but my Monday morning greetings tomorrow is, Humility, humility, humility from a Gaudiya Vaishnava perspective, part 1. And I described this. The first humility is when you seek and you admit that I'm not the authority on life. I don't know just like Sanatana Goswami himself when he came to Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya praised him as a learned man because he was very cool. I can hear Tamal Krishna Maharaj say he was no slouch. Minister, scholar, these people, the highest class Brahmin. We can't imagine the samskaras of being born in those type of families. Lord Chaitanya says he's such a learned man. I don't know a learned man because I don't know where I came from. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I'm going. That's humility. That's the fact. So I wrote, because St. Augustine said, you know, what is the most important thing in Christianity? He said, first humility, second humility, third humility. So I said, okay, I'm going to put these as 3 stages of humility. And which is really interesting because it's not the way where I was going. But I have the experience. I have the experience writing Monday morning readings that, like Prabhupada said, it's not me. Krishna wants it done. I just have to do the work. And I'm so confident now. Trust by faith is trust by experience. I didn't know where I was going. Not only where I was going, but, you know, the Vyasa Puja, you know, okay, I had one written before it. You know, Sunday and Monday, the day after. Tuesday, the dentist and a guest, a sannyasi from France, Bhakti Swarup Damodar, amazing guy, really has real good realizations. And then I'm on the plane, and I have nothing, and then I have to write it. But you see Krishna. So I put these, so that's the first humility. But the second humility happens when Krishna sees that in your heart and he says, you're seeking, thou shalt seek, you shall find. I will send a devotee. I will send a devotee. And we all have our experience how somehow we, you know, come in contact, you know. So then there's submitting to the truth because you prayed for the truth. And therefore that means you want someone who represents the truth. And when God says it, you submit to the truth. That's called character. You live your life by truth. And there's so much in there psychologically in terms of humility. So I describe that as the second stage. You'll read about it. And the third stage of humility is that it doesn't end with initiation. But the whole process of bhakti is a deepening of humility. Because as you learn more about Krishna, your heart becomes more and more pure. Then what happens? Krishna becomes more and more the center of your life, and you're more and more inclined to be at the periphery. And every stage, it deepens. So in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, this last stage of humility was really interesting. So imagine at the highest stage, the degree you exalt Krishna. And what that does to your false conception of superiority. And then you're so attracted to Krishna, and you realize that you realize what it is, God. It's not like a cheap thing. What's the price for attaining God? It's not a few radhes. It's something very deep. So then it describes, it comes to this platform of dainya, which is not different than prema. which is utter humility, an intense sense of meekness, a spiritual despair. I'm not qualified. A desperation. I want it. It comes to the ultimate stage of humility is prema bhakti. So here we see Lord Śiva. Lord Śiva, trapa, with embarrassment, avadad, ananda. Ananda means whose head is bowed with embarrassment, because he's praised, and it's not within his vision. And I've always tried to understand this point, that you can't preach at the level of uttama, because uttama, it says you come down to madhyam, but what happens is you go up to the head in madhyam. You go down to the head. You're going up, but you're going down to the head from the heart. And the heart filled with love, filled with these feelings. And then someone says that you're actually great, and you begin to reflect. So we'll go on today. I haven't prepared, so I'm just going to read the verses. Sri Mahesh uvāca. Aho bata mahat kashtam. Chakta sarva bhimanahe. Whoops, sorry. Kwavam sarva bhimananam. Mulam kwa tva. Shiva said, alas, alas, aho bhata, it's really emotional. What he's saying is really deep. Aho bhata swapa chato guriyan yujiva gre vartate naman. I forgot it in the fourth canto, glorifying the holy name. Aho bhata, look. Even a dog eater, Jiva Gray, has one name on the tongue. He's bathed in all the holy rivers. He's not, look, oh, how wonderful it is. So he goes, oh, bata, which is alas, alas, mahat kashtam. I know the word kashtam, calamity. Oh, alas, alas, oh, completely prideless Nārada. Who am I? The root of all pride in comparison to your master, Krishna. And I describe that. A person whose heart is dirty doesn't see any faults. A person who is pure, he sees his weaknesses. That's his strength. So it's very understandable. Mulam, abhimanam. What is I am? I'm the mulam of abhiman, of conceit, of false identity. Who am I? The root of all pride. And before it was discussed, and Nārada said no. That sometimes he took a superior position to Krishna. Sometimes Krishna worshipped him. Sometimes, he created demons that tried to kill people. So when you look at any journey, all of us in the material world, we have to have regret. And regret, the Sanskrit word for regret is tapa. Tapa means regret. It means austerity and it means regret. Why? Because both burn. both burn the false ego. So regret is important. In fact, it punches samskara in initiation in the 5 samskaras. The first one is tapa. When you come to initiation, you're supposed to regret. You go forward, but you're supposed to regret. You understand, at least, look at my life based on false ego. Then there's a desire to change. I think everybody, you have different relationships with people. If they don't recognize their faults, they won't change them, and you can become really frustrated. So when he realizes it, and then he says, compared to Krishna, because Nārada was quoting verses and even quoting from the Padma Purana, the second offense. Prabhupada said the names of the demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, but really the verse says Lord Shiva. So I guess there's multiple meanings. Well, to think Lord Shiva is different. In other words, you come to Vaiṣṇavism and you worship Krishna, don't become antagonistic to Lord Shiva. So he says, what am I in comparison to your master Krishna? Lokesho jnanado jnani mukto mukti prado praham bhakto bhakti prado vishnur ityad yaham yavrite. Now, this is Lord Shiva. What did he say? He said, Abhimana Mula. I'm the source of all pride or conceit. And what Abhimana is the different identities that you adopt that are connected with the false ego trying to enjoy and control. Obviously, we have to work through them, but some we also have to give up and ultimately have to become purified of them. But now when he reflects, what does he think? I think that I'm the master of the world, the supreme. These are all his conceits. He has a reason. He's Krishna almost. He is Krishna almost. Yeah. No, he's Krishna. So I think I'm the master of the world, the supreme teacher, the omniscient philosopher, liberated, the giver of liberation, a pure devotee of Lord Vishnu, and the giver of pure devotion to others. In this way, I am filled with pride. And I just remember the story where someone calls Prabhupada a great devotee. No, not an ordinary thing. Not an ordinary thing. So again, going down to the head for preaching to make distinctions, but from that vision of the heart and seeing God, and perhaps having some consideration of your life in this world, putting a perspective on this. I'm in this world, ek pad vibhuti. It's 1/4 of God's energy. I don't know if you can quantify it, but what's saying is most creation. I think I think telescopes can understand there's trillions of miles. It just never ends. God's creation. Just think about God's creation. Does it end at the beginning? If it ends at the beginning, what's beyond that? So our experience is you end something with something beyond it. And then we're here in this material world, and even if we become a little Krishna conscious, is the internet thing plugged in?
No.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. And think to not have that perspective of our insignificance, and they do always. What to speak of Krishna's sweetness if you taste that? And I remember seeing the Himalayas for the first time, and probably the last. I just couldn't go on those roads, man. Looking at it crazy Indian, the drivers. You look over and it just, there's no guardrail. Whew. But when I saw the Himalayas, I saw the vastness of it. And I knew this was just a spark of God's creation. So there's all his abhimans. Sarva grasa kare gore mahakali samagate vilaje shesha samhata tamasam swa priyojana. When the terrible time for devouring the entire world comes, I'm ashamed of my duty to destroy everything in the darkness. Guna avatar for ignorance. So he's telling Nārada, look what I am connected with. Look what I'm connected with. Nārada, if I had received even a small part of Krishna's mercy, fight with him over the Parijata flower, over Usha's kidnapping. So he's remembering. And, Leela is done by devotees. So even if there's a fight with Krishna, it's a service to Krishna. So it's a Leela. But again, looking at it from Lord Shiva's perspective, it's not where he's at. He's not analyzing. Well, because it's Leela, and he's part of the drama. And part of the drama, you have to be mugdata. You have to be forgetful. Service of Krishna, sometimes you have to be forgetful, like Arjuna. Arjuna's ignorance is part of the Bhagavad Gita. We're learning verses of Arjuna's ignorance. Would he worship his own servant? Would the Lord have ordered me with a philosophy or own invention, make everyone averse to me? So then Lord Shiva comes as Shankaracharya to make people averse from Krishna. And then Prabhupada, I remember the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, explains it so beautiful that Lord Shiva was a timely necessity, his philosophy, not an absolute fact. So there was a necessity, and for somehow or other, Buddha came and became very prominent. And Buddha's philosophy was a timely necessity, not an absolute fact. He preached nirvishesha shunyavadi. He preached shunyavadi. Everything is zero. So, and he preached in a way to reject the Vedas, because the Vedas does have allowance for cows, animal slaughter, done in a particular way. So he rejected the Vedas, and he preached a similar philosophy to Buddha. Again, the audience was captured by this philosophy. So he preached this philosophy in context of the Vedas to get people back to the Vedas. And if you get people back to the Vedas, then later, Ramanuja Acharya, Madhva Acharya, then later, after Shankaracharya, Vaidaisya Sarvaham Eva Vedyo Vedanta Vid Veda Vid. Of all the Vedas, I am to be known. You happily glorify us both as giver liberation, but the very terrible liberation we give brings pain to the devotee's ears. He's glorified. You give liberation to everyone. But what kind of liberation? It's the first part of liberation, not the second part. And the first part of liberation is muktir hitva form you give up. But real liberation is Swarupaena Vivasa, being situated in your Swarup. So he just preached, give this up. And that's the liberation he gave. And you can be liberated. You can, in one sense, you can give it up for an impersonal idea or avoid. Give it up. But he said, okay, yeah, because Nārada is saying, yeah, you're liberated, you give other book liberated. Well, what kind of liberation? What kind of liberation do I give? To see what kind of liberation I give. It's yeah. Oh, best of Lord Krishna's associate, don't think I am the object of his mercy. Know that the residents of Vaikuntha are the actual objects of his very great mercy. And now he'll describe the residents of Vaikuntha. Okay, I have to say, it's really amazing how Prabhupada said preaching is life. I'll probably collapse after this, but you get such energy. So, wow. There's quite a few people here today. Wow. Oh my God. So many people. I think we set a world's record for me. Okay. Jaya, what point did you like?
Hare Krishna, Raj. I'm just giggling because, now we're all on to you. When you say I'm not qualified to speak, you always
wait. I can't hear. 1 second.
Okay.
Wait.
Okay.
I can't hear you. What did I do
can
wrong?
you hear me now, Marge?
What? Oh, yeah. Jaya?
Haribol, can you hear me now? Haribol?
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
I hear you. Yes.
I would say, Maharaj, now we're all on to you, of course. When you say you're not ready, I always grab my notebook and bring it even closer because you always deliver. We know your technique. But the one thing, there's several things that I was really resonating with, but this concept of regret. Just yesterday, I was rereading your wonderful essay, You're Wrong. That's one in the book, Monday Morning Greetings, I have highlighted because I tried to read that on the regular. And that concept of without regret, how do we ever know? How do we go forward? And I was thinking just this week, I made a mistake. It wasn't like a egregious, nobody died, but I was saying, I'm sorry. And people were like, no, it's okay. And I was like, no, let me feel it. I want to feel this regret so that I can learn and move forward. Because it is such we can't move forward without regret. So I was really, really appreciating that point and rereading that wonderful essay, You're Wrong. That is one of my favorites of all time in Monday Morning Greetings.
Okay, great. That's from the wives of the Brahmins when they came back and their husband realized. Okay. Someone wants to say hello. Okay, Hare Krishna. Anyone want to say hello?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Okay, Malati.
Haribol. Haribol, thank you for class, Maharaj. I really appreciate your point that tapa means austerity and also regret. I hadn't heard that before. And that both burn away the false ego. That was really beautiful.
Your husband was listening to the class last time?
He was. He might also be on right now. He's at work, but he might be on. I'm not sure.
Oh, that was great.
Hello.
It was nice.
I'm on.
Hey, okay. I want to tell you how great you look with your beard.
Thank you.
Okay, Haribol. Good.
You,
anyone else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay, we have Bhakti David. Okay.
Hi Maharaj. I kind of never really saw Shiva as different from Krishna, and I have to tell you why. And it's a little bit embarrassing, but early on in my path, when I first wanted to have an altar at home, and I had found some beautiful pictures at a yard sale, one of Krishna and one of Ganesh. And so I loved this picture so much, I put it on my altar, and that was my picture on my altar. And then I went to Vyasudev's home worship class. And so he wanted to see everybody's altars, and I showed him mine, and he started giggling. He said, Betty, that's not Krishna, that's Shiva. So I had Lord Shiva on my altar for the longest time, and I fell in love with Shiva. So that was just a little bit embarrassing. But anyway, you had mentioned also in here that Shiva said he was embarrassed, I guess, and I guess upset that he's also connected with the destruction. Could you just elaborate on that?
Well, he's the guna avatar for ignorance. So ignorance destroys things. So there's a dissolution of the world. And that also serves God, because it's in the Gita, it says, Bhutva, Bhutva, Praliyate, again and again destroyed. You're supposed to get tired of making your sand castles, on the shore and expecting them to beat the ocean. You understand?
Yes.
So it serves a purpose to get the higher thing. I had to say, I really imbibe this story because you're starting to tell, oh my God, look at Betty, Bhakti Devi, excuse me, look at Bhakti Devi. He thought she was Lord Shiva. I should put that on the altar. Okay. Haribo? Anybody else?
Maharaj, I have to follow up with this one.
What's that?
I said, I need to follow up with Bhakti Devi's story.
Okay.
Because, if you see the Hudson River and you think the Yamuna, right?
Yeah.
That counts, right? So even though she had Lord Shiva on the altar, she was worshiping him as Krishna. So as far as Krishna is concerned, she was good, no?
Well, worship should be with tattva. It should be with a good understanding. And I think it's Lord Shiva is not, it's an offensive thing. Lord Shiva is equal to or independent. So he's Krishna, but not Krishna. So she didn't have the not Krishna part now.
Yeah, but she didn't know that it was a picture of Shiva. She was thinking, I'm worshiping Krishna. She wasn't thinking.
Okay. Oh, I didn't get that part of the story. Okay. Well, then Bhakti Devi was in Yoga Maya. So it was a very high state where she was bewildered.
Okay, I have to laugh at that.
Okay, you made your point, Gail. Good. Okay.
Yeah,
Haribo Maharaj.
Who's saying Haribo?
It's Mallory.
Mallory.
Haribo.
Okay.
Haribo Maharaj.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see you.
I wanted to
Thank
see
you, Maharaj.
That's her. I'm not supposed to know, but that's her husband.
Oh, thank you, Maharaj. I look forward to coming and serving you in a few months.
Yeah, that'll be great. Thank you, Mallory.
Will be. Thank you for class.
Yeah. Haribo. That's Sundar Govinda here. He comes to the Puri Yatra, and he has an amazing daughter who you'll get to know. Her daughter was like 6 years old, and she sits making portraits of devotees that are sitting in the kirtan. And she did one of Hari Kirtan with his beard, and even just he had the belly down too, just a little bit. It was so good. So you'll get to meet her. Okay.
I look forward to that. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Tota Gopinath here. Radhe Radhe.
Oh, Haribo, Tota. Oh, wow, Tota's advanced now.
Well, I don't know about that.
Okay, anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Hemala Tarada. Thank you so much for class. You're there.
We will see you soon. We will see you.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. Wow. My main man, Amala Vaiṣṇava. Where are you?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for class.
Amala wants to say hello to everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Amala, it was great with Bhakti Swarup Damodar.
Good to hear.
What a wonderful Vaiṣṇava, and we both spoke. An incredible feast was there. We had such a nice time.
Nice.
Yeah.
I heard the class. It was beautiful.
Yeah. It's, you know what, there's the they used to have advertisements for the draft. Uncle Sam wants you. So that's what it is. There's a poster of him. He wants you on his motorcycle gang.
Right.
I'm telling you.
I know. Okay. We've been talking about it.
I know. I'm not interfering with that. Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Garaj, it's Lal Govinda. Thank you for class.
Hey, Haribo, Lal.
Well,
that was fun on Tuesday. We had a great time. It was nice.
Yeah, it was...
Those community gatherings are so strengthening. It was Lal Govinda.
Hare Krishna. Haribol.
Okay, anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, is Gopi Gita. Thank you for class.
Gopi Gita, Haribo. Good to see you. We'll also see you in India.
Yes, I hope so.
Wonderful. Anybody else?
Haribol Garaj. It's Jal, Karuna, and Kaylee. We're all here.
Jal, Karuna, and Kaylee. Is that a vaudeville act or is that a family?
I think it is a vaudeville act.
Let me see the picture. No picture to see you guys.
We don't look so good in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got it. Okay. Anybody else? Say hello.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Catalina, Haribo.
Haribo
How's your
Maharaj.
daughter doing? How was your visit to Ottawa? Edmonton. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. And she's fine. She's happy. She's establishing. So very happy for that. And happy to hear.
I gave her something, right?
Yes, but she hasn't sent you a note yet, but she will.
I'll write her.
I'm sorry for that.
I'll write her.
Thank you, Maharaj.
I'll write her.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And hope you get
else?
soon well.
Thank you. I'm already getting energy from this class. It's amazing. Anybody else?
We get energy from you.
Okay, Haribo.
Haribo. Hare Krishna Maharaj Yvette. Just wanted to say thank you for class.
Hey, Yvette. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you too.
Thank you for coming to my party. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make it regularly. So thank you. Thank you for offering.
You're a local. You're a local. You have to. Okay. Anybody else?
Okay.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. This is Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta.
This is Śrī Parīkṣit.
Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta.
Oh, Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. Haribo. Wow.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Great. It was a great Vyas Puja, even though we couldn't get your son. Still, we were able to have it, but he's wonderful. You got such a nice boy there. Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Jai Śrī Radhe is also here.
Okay. Jai Śrī Radhe looks like a famous Russian newscaster.
Yeah.
What? Causing trouble. Okay, Haribo. Okay. You know how I express my love. Anyway. Okay. Anybody else? Wow.
Hare Krishna Garaj, this is Kishori Radha and Priya.
Oh, wow. Okay. When that paint dries, that's mine.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else?
We'll bring it to Jack's house.
Anybody else? Wow, it's such the group is wow.
Haribol Maharaj.
Hey.
Good morning. Thank you for
is
class.
Is it cold there?
Yeah, always. In Quito, always.
It's the other side of the equator, right?
Yeah. Thank you for class and for that new concept of tapas. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, look in the Bhagavatam. Wives of the Brahmins delivered at the end when the wives come back and they're so pure and elevated and their husbands have this epiphany that, you know, we really never changed our heart, even though we had all these external things. And then they started cursing. The hell with this, the hell with my the hell. It's a famous verse with hell. But in it, it mentions that the regret burned their impurities. And that's where the word tapo was. That's how I found that out. Okay, thank you so much for coming on, Gabby.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, Haribol. Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Amala, Haribol.
Thank you for
nice to see you. Okay. Okay, I'm looking through all the different names. Okay, I see everybody. Thank you. Vanchakalpa Tubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhava.